Alright guys, so this is the next flipped lecture on the Gilded Age and the Progressive Era. The last one we were taking a look at the monopolists. I mean, guys like J.P. Morgan, J.D. Rockefeller, all those guys. And one of the things about this time period is one of the reasons why they're allowed to build those monopolies is basically the government is letting them. Right? Nobody is trying to stop them from building those monopolies. And one of the things is we have a political machine climate going on. Right? So we're going to define what that is, right? And then build upon that and see why this might allow the monopolies to grow. So first thing, let's take a look at what a political machine is. If you think about a machine is doing the same thing over and over and over again. So if we're talking about a political machine, one of the big things about politics is our elections. So they're winning these elections over and over and over every time for like 30 years. Another thing to keep in mind about these is it's hard to organize on a state or a national level. So these are going to be usually local politics. New York City, Chicago, St. Louis, LA. Those are going to have political machines. You're not going to see it on a state level. And one of the reasons why they're able to win those elections over and over and over again is because they have a big party structure. Right? They have bosses, then they have people going out there rounding up the votes, then they have the voters. And the way that these political bosses are able to keep favor is that they give out things. They have jobs. They're going to be in control of the government, so they can give out these jobs and services for party members that people who didn't vote or didn't support aren't going to get. So why are political parties forming during this time? We have a two-party system now. It's an us versus them type of system. We have the Republican Party, who's just been created in the 1850s. They have their base, a solid base of business owners. J.D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie. All these guys are going to be Republicans because they're pro-business. In fact, that 1896 election with excuse me, forgetting names right quick. William McKinley is going to be the Republican candidate. Right? William Jennings Bryan is the Democratic candidate. William Jennings Bryan is popular with the people. Republicans are going to spend millions and millions of dollars. In the end, they get their guy. William McKinley, the Republican, is going to become president. Northerners are going to support the Republicans the most. Nativists, people who are against immigration, and most middle class workers, factory workers, industrial workers. The Democrats are going to have a base of Southerners. Remember, the Republican Party is the party that kind of threw their entire social order into chaos. Catholics and Jews and most farmers. Even in the West, the Populist Party has fallen apart. They're going to support the Democrats now. They are going to control access to jobs, services. So if you want to be a police officer, if you want to be a tax collector, trash man, if you want to be a dog catcher, you're going to need to support the political party that's in power and that can stay in power. But one of the problems with these political machines is that they can lend themselves to corruption. Not every political machine is going to be corrupt, but the thing about these are that since they're winning every election, they're almost unopposed. They don't have to worry about getting kicked out. So they are going to be able to do some things that aren't necessarily legal. So the types of corruption we'll talk about are embezzlement, patronage, nepotism, graft, and then electoral fraud. The easiest one to remember is embezzlement. It's basically getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar. Tax money comes into the government, it goes to the treasury or wherever they're keeping that money, and you as an elected official, you basically take that money out and use it for your private use. So a mayor adding on another wing to his house from taxpayer money, or using that money to help out his business. Maybe he has a jewelry shop or something, using that tax money to boost up that jewelry shop, or taking these long vacations that aren't part of his job. That's embezzlement. Right? And that is definitely illegal. Even in the 1880s, 1890s, if you get caught embezzling money, you're going to jail. The thing is, who are the police controlled by? Who's investigating this? Usually, it's loyal party political machine members. So it's not going to, you're not really going to be called all that much. Patronage. Right? Patronage is essentially the old spoil system from Andrew Jackson. Right? I get elected, I come in, I put who I want into those jobs. Usually political supporters. Now, it could be about votes, but everybody, well, we'll talk about whether people get one vote here in a minute. But the idea is that everybody gets one vote. The biggest way you could support a political campaign is through donating money. So if you donate enough money to this candidate, right, they're going to remember that when they are president, not necessarily, especially with political machines, it's going to be more the mayor or the political boss. He's going to dole out those jobs, right, police officers, tax collectors, and also government contracts. So if there is a new courthouse being built and you've been a loyal political member, political machine member, they're going to remember that, and they're probably going to give you the construction job. Even if you might not have the lowest quote. Maybe if it's not best for the people of the city, they're still going to support you because you supported them. Nepotism. Very similar to patronage. One of the problems with patronage is that you can get unqualified people in these jobs. You could have a police officer who doesn't know anything about the laws, who doesn't know, let's say, the Miranda rights. Right? It could be very, very bad. Nepotism is the same thing, but with family members. So you have a family member who needs a job, you give them that job even though they are not qualified. I call this the Billy Madison effect, right? Billy Madison is this old Adam Sandler movie in which a business owner is going to give his business to his son, right? But his son has never actually passed any of the grades in school. So he basically has to go through kindergarten all the way to senior in high school in 2 weeks. And there's this show at the end, this quiz show. It's a pretty good movie for Adam Sandler movie. But it comes up with this idea. Is he qualified to take over the company? Well, it's the same thing in politics. What if the mayor is going to give his son a very high-ranking job and that son hasn't really passed any grades, right? Isn't qualified for that job? That could be a big problem. Graft. All right, graft is the use of secret information to the private benefit of a public official. So, example of this: you're the mayor of Zebulon. You know that Zebulon is looking to expand, but there's 4 different directions it can expand. It could go north, it could go east, it could go west, and it could go south. Well, you as mayor know exactly where Zebulon is looking to expand. You've been in those meetings. You know where they're looking to gain land from and put sewers down and light systems down. So you're going to use that information, go very quickly, buy up all that farmland, sit on it, and then when Zebulon expands to the north where you knew it was, and they put those sewer lines down, and they put those light lines down, you sell it off for a profit. That's using secret information for your personal gain, and that would definitely be illegal, right? That would definitely be illegal. Other types of graft might not be as illegal. One of the more famous cases over here with the New York County Courthouse, built in the 1870s, Tammany Hall, which we're going to take a look at in a minute. They're in charge of New York City during this time, and they're giving kickbacks to construction companies that are headed by loyal party members. So those party members are essentially padding the numbers, and they're getting a lot of money that they shouldn't be getting, right? That's graft as well. Electoral fraud is sometimes the simplest. Who's in charge of the elections? Usually the political party that's in charge of the city has control of the electoral system. Right? So this can end up with lost ballots, extra ballots being counted. In New York City, in some elections, there were more people that voted than there actually was population in that precinct. Right? Ineligible people voting, people that have died, political boss would come around to their wake or to their funeral, write down their name because they wanted to make sure in the next election that person still voted for the political machine that they were part of. They could move rid of precincts at the last minute. That was done mostly in the South to disenfranchise any African Americans who wanted to vote. They moved the precincts around at the last minute. and just intimidation. Have these big guys sitting in the corner of the room, right, and intimidate you. Another thing is that these elections are not private, so everybody knows who you voted for. If your boss is in the corner of the room and he see you voted for the person he doesn't want to become mayor, doesn't want to become governor, next day you go to work, pink slip, you're fired. And there's nothing really, there's no recourse. There's no recourse for that. The most famous political machine, and there are others, there are many others. There's some famous ones in St. Louis and Chicago, but the most famous one is Tammany Hall in New York City. It's going to be a Democratic Party political machine. There are Republican political machines in St. Louis, but it's going to be supported and supports the immigrant population of New York City. Right? So if you got off the boat and you didn't have a place to stay, Tammany would essentially give you a place to stay. They would give you a job. Sometimes they would even be there with food right off the boat. Right? So you already got a good relationship with them going. They would come and attend funerals. They would help you with rent. If you needed a job, you could go to them. They'd line you up one, and in return, you knew who you were going to keep in power because they were the ones that were supporting you. The leader of Tammany Hall, and he's not going to be the mayor. He's actually one of the transportation people. He's going to be in the U.S. House of Representatives and the New York State Senate for a couple of times, but he's really running Tammany Hall from a lower level position. But he's well connected in the community. He knows most of the people in New York City, or at least knows who to go to know about you. He is basically stealing money from the government. That's why you see over here the brains, right? He's got money on his mind all the time. He's embezzling, he's in graft, electoral fraud, all those things that we just talked about. Essentially, he is part of in this Tammany Hall. So he's going to get a lot of pushback, but a lot of people actually see Boss Tweed as a good guy. He's giving them jobs, he's giving them houses, he's running the fire department. So he's not seen as this ultimate evil character. However, he does, the corruption part of it is starting to get noticed, and he starts to lose power around 1870. There's an Irish kind of uprising, there's a demonstration that turns violent. So people start to take a look at him differently, trying to see if he's a good character. One of these people is essentially going to be his arch nemesis, Thomas Nast. Thomas Nast lives by this idea that the pen is mightier than the sword. So Thomas Nast, he's going to be a political cartoonist. It seems like every week he's drawing a political cartoon against Boss Tweed. And we're going to take a look at a lot more of them in class. Actually, these two are Thomas Nast cartoons about Boss Tweed. We're going to take a look more in class and try to break some of them down and take a look at what they're meaning and stuff. But he's focused on exposing the problems with Tammany Hall. And one of the things that happens is Boss Tweed actually is going to go to jail. He's going to be charged and convicted of over 200 counts of corruption. Nast is drawing political cartoons that are put on these newspapers that are circulated worldwide. Tweed is actually going to break out of prison. He's going to escape New York City, getting on a fishing boat and going all the way out to Spain. While in Spain, as a lowly sailor, a person is going to recognize Boss Tweed from one of Thomas Nast's cartoons and turn him into American authorities. Basically, there's an American boat nearby, a naval vessel. They put him on board and he goes back to prison, and Boss Tweed will die in prison about 5 years later. But Thomas Nast is one of these guys who switches the idea of the people that Boss Tweed is a good guy to Boss Tweed is corrupt and needs to get out of office. So all of this is the political machines and some of the problems with those political machines. All right, we'll talk next time about the labor unions and their push for better conditions. All right.